Let me get your thoughts on something right out of the gate, because since Trump has come into the office, I've seen kind of maybe a little bit of a shift in Christians or even those that watch prophecy and be like, oh, you know, Terry, we sure saw things going straight towards the end, fast-paced during the Biden administration, COVID, et cetera, et cetera. But now that Trump's in, everything's taken a break, everything's on hold, it's all golden age in the conversation, tracking toward the tribulation. What are you talking about? Things are wonderful. What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's exactly as I talked with Gary about early. It is exactly where Jesus said it's going to be at the time he next intervenes catastrophically into the world situation. As our subtitle indicates, Armando, by that I mean that Jesus said in Luke, as recorded in Luke 17:28 through 30, that as it was in the days of Lot, so shall it be in the day of the coming of the Son of Man. What did he mean by that? Well, he said they builded, they bought, they sold, they planted, they married, all these things. And the very day that Lot was taken out of Sodom, destruction came. Well, Lot was the only righteous that God saw in Sodom. I think it's becoming much this way, even though we have a president, but the president we have is a builder beyond any other we've known. He has got, I think business is going to boom, that's my personal opinion, from this point forward. And it's going to be just like it was in the days of Lot. You know, Lot was in the city gate. He was an administrator. And it was the most booming area in the region, Sodom and Gomorrah were. And so I think that where we are right now is the fact that that we're going to see a boom just like it was in the days of Sodom. And at some point where it looks like you know, everything's going to be, we're going to make America great again, we're going to have the golden age, and golden dome and all these other things. At that very moment, Christ is going to intervene just like he did, because it wasn't tribulation, it wasn't terrible times during that period when Christ took Lot out of Sodom. It was business as usual. It was his business going along as usual. It wasn't gloom and doom. And Jesus didn't say he's going to be, you know, the tribulation era just before his second coming. Revelation 19:11. There's not going to be much humanity left on the planet. It's certainly not going to be business as usual at that time.
You bring up something here as well, but before we get into some of that, because tell me, you know, give us a background. I'll say it this way: give us a background. Here's a book you have. You have several authors in the book. This is a collection of different people, which I really like those kind of books. Kind of talk about how this book came to be versus some of your previous books.
In this book, in this particular book, Tracking Toward Tribulation, instead, and you'll remember this, I imagine, Monzo, I asked each author to send me things that they've already written and tailor it kind of for a book, things they see happening that would allow us to look at how things are moving toward the tribulation era. And things you've already written, rather than assign a topic, I wanted the authors to send me something that they're passionate about. And yours was on the conclusion. I used yours in the conclusion, and it was on the rapture, which is, you know, my very favorite topic. And so that was a little bit different, you know. Instead of assigning topics, I asked each author to write what they're passionate about, send it to me, even using things that they've written before, and tailor it kind of to our book, because I gave them an idea of what the book was about. And it just worked out, I think, very well.
Yeah, it worked out very well, because the idea of tracking towards tribulation, we recognize from the Bible that there are a lot of factors and ideas and topics that are all converging. And, you know, we all do this full time, and we love waiting for the Lord's return. We love tracking all of the different topics and convergences. And so to me as well, when you had mentioned about it, I was like, you know what? One of the factors, which was what I wrote in my article really about God's rescue, was what you just described a few minutes ago, that when I look out at the world and we see the chaos and we see the increase, And really, Jesus, the rescue happens, whether it was Lot or Noah, in the days of Noah, days of Lot. We see that, like you said in Luke 17, that it happened in a time of relative normalcy. I wouldn't say absolute normalcy, but relative normalcy. People are buying, selling, planting, building. They're just, you know, I have a venue, wedding. I'm going to plan a wedding. I'm going to get my building permit for the shed, you know. But we don't see that at the end of the tribulation, do we?
No, and we don't see it now. With the surface just beneath all that building, buying, selling, business as usual, normalcy, we see the most wicked. We see a generation of people in this country and the world who are as wicked as the days of Lot. You know, my goodness, with the ability to export pornography and all the other things. So great on the surface, civility, building, boom, but beneath it, just ripping at God's heart, especially involving children, abortion, sex trafficking, and all the rest, has to rip at his heart. And so that's why I believe, you know, Jesus is about to step out on the clouds of glory and say to his righteous people who are believers, you know, that's the only righteous God sees, to come up here.
Yeah, to me, that really is the key. When you look out, there's this surface economic prosperity, but below, just like in the days of Noah, Noah was vexed. We see in Genesis 6:5 that humanity was wicked from their youth in their hearts continually. Certainly in the story of Lot, we see that the wicked sexual immorality and homosexuality that was happening there. We know as well in Ezekiel 16 that there was just a whole list of things that Sodom was doing in opposition to what God is.
So it vexed righteous Lot. Well, I don't know how righteous I am, but I am through Jesus, but I'm sorely vexed right now.
Yeah.